This is the brand new Leica Q3 with a 43mm lens. We're in Paris, and this is a Cartier-Bresson off. So as much as I would love to do a complete review in black and white, that's probably not realistic or what you guys want to see, so now you should see me looking a little bit more natural. Hello, Mr. Pigeon. So let's talk about the Q3, because the Q3 is not new, and if you're a big fan of the Leica series or you own a Leica, you may already own the Q3 with the 28mm lens. But this camera is brand new because the fixed lens here is a 43. For me, I'm really excited by that. I shoot on a 50 often, and a 43 is kind of splitting the difference between a 35 and a 50. You get the wider view than the 50 would offer you, but you still keep that rich, beautiful tone that you get from a 50 with the depth of field. It's a fixed lens like the Q328, but there's a few key differences. This is an APO-Summicron f2 aspherical lens, which is a little bit different from the 28mm lens that they have on their other Q3 that's out. Now, we're going to talk about that in more detail later, but first I want to give you some headline specs on the Q3 because I love the Q3, and I think you will too if you haven't already got it. First of all, it is a full-frame CMOS sensor, which we love from Leica. It's in a compact body, so that's great. There's triple resolution built in, so you have 18, 36, and 60 megapixels as your options. The reason you would want to do that is because sometimes 60 is overkill, and 18 megapixels is plenty if you're just shooting like we are today. You don't want to eat up all your space. One of the benefits of having a different lens is that you also have different digital zooms, and Leica have been known to build in digital zooms, which is really beneficial if there is a shot that you want to get but you're on a fixed lens. Now, on the 43, you can go up all the way to 150mm, which gives you that added digital zoom from the 28. The other thing about this that I think is a bit of a headline for me, and it's not new, so it is in a lot of their cameras, but they've stayed traditional to the way that the body looks and feels, including the attachment of the square-looking lens. Now, does that add anything to my photography? Probably not. Does it make me feel cool? Yes, and if you've watched most of our videos, you'll know that I am the furthest thing from cool. You could subscribe to go and find those videos, but for now, let's get back to Cartier-Bresson. So the first shot from Cartier-Bresson that I'm going to try and replicate is on the screen. We've chosen our own shots today. Now, I've picked a guy smoking because I think that's really easy to get. The challenge is I'm going to have to get really close to somebody, but that 43 is going to give me a really beautiful depth of field. It's going to look really clean and really beautiful. So it gives me a really good opportunity to talk to you about something I love about Leica, which is their looks. Because I'm going to shoot this in black and white, and I'm not just going to shoot this in monochrome, I'm going to shoot in high contrast monochrome, because I really want to get my Cartier-Bresson on. Bonjour. The Cartier-Bresson trick is to find two people or two things doing exactly the same thing in exactly the same position. Super easy, right? I got it. It was fine. I don't feel as windy as that lady did. Do I look windy? I don't feel as windy. So we're here at the Shakespeare & Company in Paris, and it's one of my all-time favorite places to go when we're here because it's really photogenic and there's always a lot going on. I've just taken a break from playing George at chess so I can tell you about the lens, because the Q3 is already out with the 28 and the body itself hasn't got any changes, but the lens has huge changes, and for me, I love it. So let's break that down. Earlier we told you it was an APO. That means that it's apochromatically corrected. Now, when you take pictures, sometimes on certain products and lenses, you get fringing or color fringing, which is that sort of rainbow you see around certain subject matters. Now, with chromatic aberration corrections inside a lens, it means that that is less. It doesn't mean that it's completely gone, but it's much more true to eye, and in this lens, I haven't really seen any. In fact, I haven't seen any at all. So next to that, we have Summicron. All of the lenses on the Q3 series are Summilux lenses. What's the difference? Well, first of all, the Summilux lenses are f1.4 and this is f2. So you may be thinking, well, that means it's slower. It is marginally slower, but it's not really noticeable, and I haven't found it problematic when I've been shooting. But what I do find really awesome about it is that the Summicron series, which this is a lot lighter. In fact, it's almost 100 grams lighter. So it makes the whole body a lot easier to walk around with. I haven't felt that my hand is getting tired or that I'm frustrated by the weight of it. For the traditionalists out there, what I really, really love is that it's a homage to Leica's lenses, because in 1933 they had the Summa lenses, which is where this comes from, and Cartier-Bresson was shooting on a Leica 3 with a 50mm Summa lens. So whilst this is a Q3 with a 43mm lens, it does pay homage to that history. And if you're a traditionalist like I am, or you're a big fan of the great photographers of Paris, it really does bring you back to that element, and shooting with it feels really fun and it feels really fresh. Now finally, we have the ASPH part of the lens, which stands for aspherical. Now, if you shoot with different cameras, you'll be aware that almost all lenses now are aspherical. And the 28 was also aspherical, which was the Q3's predecessor fixed lens. What is aspherical? Well, it's really simple. A lot of elements can be built in a spherical or an aspherical way. Aspherical just means that it reduces the distortion and sometimes increases the sharpness depending on how many elements are in the lens. With Leica, this kind of lens is more complicated to build, but it does mean that you get crisper, cleaner, sharper images edge to edge. But it wasn't my final point, because my final point is, checkmate, George. The downside of a 43 is that you have to get really close. But the upside of a 43 is that you have to get really close. The thing about street photography is that you really need interest in people, and sometimes there are not interesting people around, and that makes things really hard. Thankfully, I have a George. Isn't that right, George? Perfecto. So we've come to Gare Saint-Lazare, which is where Cartier-Bresson took his very famous shot of a guy jumping over a puddle, which you would have seen on the front cover of his books. Now, I'm quite excited. We're going to try and recreate some. Obviously, I'm not Cartier-Bresson, so forgive me. For this, I'm going to switch to AF. One of the things I really like is that whilst most people would use a Leica with manual focus, which is what I've been doing for most of this trip, it does have autofocus, and it works quite well. So we finally found the location where Cartier shot the really famous shot of the guy jumping over a puddle. We're going to cheat a little bit. As you can see, it's a wonderful day and I'm really enjoying that for shooting, and obviously with a Leica it's great to have a sunny day. But I'm bringing in some reinforcements to try and help make it look like it was raining. We're going to get George to jump over a pothole, which I'm going to turn into a puddle, and then we're going to see if we can get the shot with the silhouette coming across. We'll get there. whilst the Q3 isn't new, I do want to talk to you about the body because there are elements of the body that are new, but also one thing I've come to love about Leica is how they look and feel, and I'm sure you're with me on that front. So the new element of this is that we have a new color, which is slate gray. So you can see that on the model that we're holding today. But let's talk about some of the classic elements. So in terms of the grip, you have the thumb line here, which is really lovely. It's a nice way to sort of have a minimal grip. It doesn't add too much weight or bulk to the camera. Obviously, you have that really sleek, compact design with the curved edges. A lot of people really like that, and I have to say, I'm a fan too. But what's really interesting to me is the lens. What I really like about the lens design is that they've kept it quite compact and it's very light. We talked about that earlier in the video with it being a Summicron lens. But it also has these dials on it, and what's really cool, and we'll show you a close-up, is when you switch between macro and shooting normally, you get this ring in the middle that moves. And so on macro, you can have a minimum focus distance of 0.27, and you can see that when you switch to macro on this ring here. And then when you switch back, the ring moves back and gives you the minimum focus distance of 0.6, along with the other elements that you need to know. A lot of great street photographers use geometric lines, and Bresson was no exception. So we've come to this kind of really beautiful geometric part of Paris where there's a lot of stairs in a lot of different places, a lot of different angles. Hopefully I can get something that's vaguely inspired by the shot on the screen, but we will see. But if I could ever do that shot, it's going to be with the Leica. So Bruce Gilden told me that if you're not close enough, you won't be good enough. And I feel like Bruce Gilden never had to use a 43mm to get a staircase that's very far apart from itself. One of mine and many people's favourite shots from Cartier-Bresson is at the Eiffel Tower, and it's this beautiful shot of two people kissing, sharing an intimate moment with somebody leaping across the frame. Now, realistically, that's not going to happen for us. Street photography is as such that it happens once, usually. But we are here, it is romantic, and we're going to see if we can recreate the picture a little bit with somebody sharing a really nice moment in front of the Eiffel Tower. Wish me luck. This is a tough one, and I have the patience of... I don't have any patience, let's be real. So our time in Paris has come to an end with the Leica Q3 with the 43 lens. I love a 50 and I love a traditionalist lens, and so the 43 gives you that, but it gives you that little bit of extra width that I always feel like I'm missing on a 50. If you're a traditionalist like I am, or just a photography nerd, I like to say buff, but let's be real, it really performed well. Is it a surprise? No. Leica are fantastic, and I've never had a problem with any of their cameras. The look and feel makes me feel really cool, makes me feel like I'm photographing professionally. In terms of the quality, I think it's fantastic. 60 megapixels, however, is a lot. It's a lot of megapixels to shoot on if you're just shooting for fun, but again, they've given you the 18 as an option, and that would have been plenty for us. If I had one bad thing to say, and I'm really struggling to find something I didn't like, it would maybe be that the grip, if you're not used to a Leica, is a little tricky and can feel not as secure. But to be honest, would I want a grip in exchange for giving up what this looks like? No, I'm obsessed with it. The square at the front, the new color, the gray matte, the look and feel, it's all beautiful. Honestly, I do think it's a wonderful camera. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, because it is coming up to about £7,000. And to be honest, it is a lot of money. I'm not going to pretend that it's not a lot of money, but what I like about it is that it would be the only camera you ever needed to own. And whilst a 43 might seem a little restrictive to some people, that 60 megapixel is going to allow you to crop in. And so just so you can see that on the screen, I'm going to put some shots and you can see how much we can go in without losing that detail. And for me, that's giving me everything I need from an interchangeable lens camera on a fixed lens. So I don't really see that as a problem. Overall, I've had a really great time in Paris. Am I going to be a famous photographer who people refer to as the OG or the Mac Daddy of black and white street photography? Probably not. But if you want to see some more of me pretending to try, subscribe to our channel.